There we go. So I think most of you know me. I'm Carolyn. I'm with Curio 412, and we are a consultancy that works with nonprofits and small businesses. And today I have with me Stephanie Rapush from Credit Gives. I'll have Stephanie wave, and we'll introduce her in just a minute. Before I get the presentation portion started, I want to just give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, say which organization they're representing today, and possibly state what your what types of partnerships you're looking for at this point in time. So the first person on my screen here is Harriet. So Harriet, you want to start us off?
Okay, sure. I'm Harriet Berg with Springs Historical Society. We're from southern Somerset County, and we have a farmers market. Museum is not opening this year, and we've just canceled our annual folk festival. So that's our main revenue income for the year. And yeah, I'd like to partner with other nonprofit organizations as well as businesses.
Awesome. Thanks, Harriet. Bob, you're next on my list.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Stakely. I'm with the Heinz History Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Strip District, the neighborhood that is, to be specific. And my job is to coordinate and manage our History Center Affiliates program, in which we work with over 450 organizations that have something or some connection to history. And so the History Center Affiliates program, and the History Center in general, loves partnering with any nonprofit and for-profit business to further our mission. And thank you, Carolyn, for hosting this once again. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Sue or John. You're showing up as John for me. So, but go ahead, Sue.
I'm Sue Kasker. I'm the president of the Zeleenople Historical Society, also in Butler County, and we really took seriously. If you can't have the big fundraising things, have a lot of little stuff going on, and we are so busy with little stuff that we got to stop it. But we had a great band concert, and it was donations, spacing in our backyard, and we've had memoir writing stuff. We've had 2 sessions of that. So we've been making money little by little by little, and things are donated. We're going to have a Zilly trivia night coming up in July 23rd, where teams try to answer questions about Zilly history, and it all in our yard, spaced with masks. And we're just nervous that, someday we're going to be in the news, like 3 cases from the backyard of the Historical Society. But we don't have sponsorships, and that would be interesting for me. Our treasurer is on vacation. That's why I'm here. So, but anything, I'm going to get back to her on anything financial to help us, maintain 2 1800s house museums would be great help.
Could I say one quick thing? I forgot to mention this. Great job. Speaking of the news, I meant to call you or send you a quick note. I saw your little segment on Channel 11 News saying that the Zeleenople Historical Society was collecting materials related to the COVID-19
It was on the
crisis.
news?
It was on the news, yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was about a couple days ago. So congratulations.
Great, thank you. We were in the paper, the Butler Eagle, Thank you. Great.
Fabulous. All right, Jim.
Right.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for putting this meeting together. And I'm with Hopeful Ways. I'm president of Hopeful Ways, and we're located outside of Buffalo, New York. Although it's nice hearing all the stuff. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, so it's nice hearing about what's going on down there. Basically, what Hopeful Ways does is run international medical missions and humanitarian missions to, mostly it's been to Nicaragua, but we are branching out to other Latin American countries to serve the needy. Our primary program is an eye care services, which we provide eye exams and eyeglasses and readers. But the big hitter right now that people seem to be more apt to help us fund is our eye surgery program, where we can provide essentially a cataract surgery to somebody who's nearly blind with severe cataracts for $165. So for every $165 we raise, we can have somebody see again. So that's been our kind of our poster child program. We're very much clued in with a lot of the Lions clubs. I'd like to see if I can get more, I guess, connection with some of the other things like the Rotary and the Kiwanis to see if we can get help from them. We've had some help with some of the eye care corporations when donating supplies if we're actually going down on missions, which we can't do right now for multiple reasons. COVID being one. The other one is that they have some political unrest in Nicaragua, so that's down too. So we're looking to find some ways to generate funds for our eye surgery program. The smaller events that we've had really can't be run too well with the whole COVID thing going on now. So looking for more ideas.
Awesome, thanks. Scott?
So good afternoon, folks. Scott Hacker. I actually have two sides to me here. My professional side is with New York Life, so helping individuals and business owners kind of on the financial side of their life, which does also include planning for charitable giving, which is a really interesting topic when you're down below those folks that are, what you would consider major donors, and people don't really understand the ways to leverage that for them personally when they're making donations. And I can help them with that. The other side, I am also a board member on a 501c3 called Career Walk, which is helping students through middle school through high school look at career options and paths with some actual real information for them before they're 18 years old. And I'll leave it at that for now. But I met Stephanie, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, loved her story. And as soon as we are actually operational, we're going to be signing up with her.
Awesome. Yeah, and Scott's the reason that Stephanie's here today, so thank you, Scott. And Natalie, you're the last one on my list here.
Hello. I had to make sure I carefully selected unmute instead of turn on video. So, hi, I'm Natalie Kasevich. I am also kind of here from two perspectives, although my main goal is I'm the president of the board of the Edgewood Symphony Orchestra. And we're a full symphony orchestra, and during the current crisis, we're obviously unable to perform large-scale productions in front of large audiences. So we're kind of trying to focus on doing work with smaller ensembles, and also being aware that corporate sponsorships are likely to be down this year, and particularly foundation sponsorships are down. We're a regional asset, so we're expecting at least a 20% decrease in our funding from RAD. So trying to look at actually ways of collaborating more than specifically requesting donations with organizations, for-profit businesses. So that's really what I'm trying to look at the moment. And just as a side note, I'm also the executive director of a small foundation, so I do have that perspective as well. But I'm really here to try and find out partnerships for the orchestra.
Awesome. Natalie, and thanks everyone. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. We're gonna start by talking about just what an innovative partnership looks like and some of the different ways that we might be able to partner with businesses and nonprofits to really get the most out of supporting each other during a time that's difficult for everyone. Like I said, we're here with Stephanie Repush from Credit Gives, which is going to be the featured presenter after we talk a little bit more about the partnership side of things. She is the account executive of Credit Gives, and she has just been amazing to work with so far. I have worked with her through one or two groups who are considering using her services, and just a wonderful thing. Credit Gives is a company that does merchant processing, but 20% of those processing fees can go back to a nonprofit. So if you're a nonprofit, you can receive those that 20% back, or if you're a business that wants to support an organization, you can choose the nonprofit of your choice. So she'll give herself more of an introduction when we talk more about Credit Gives. For today, I wanted to just go over some of the things in our registration that can give you a bit of a perspective if you're here with a business or a nonprofit. For our nonprofits, I had asked, what are your current funding sources? And I'm sure this is not a surprise for our nonprofits who are here today. A large percentage comes from individual donations or major gifts, as well as event revenue. And as we know, both of those are down at this point. There's also a large percent that comes from corporate sponsorships, and then a smaller percentage from grants, fees for services, as well as memberships. So that's an overview of just the organizations that are here today and what those types of funding sources look like for our organizations here. And the other thing that we asked in of our businesses was, what types of things do you do that is involved with corporate responsibility and corporate social responsibility? And this is things like encouraging employees to volunteer or providing sustainable policies. I know that Scott has mentioned before being able to provide information for client awareness. And we have, and I don't think she's here with us today, but we have a woman who owns a business who actually manages her business as a local nonprofit. So that is an interesting thing as well. So to get a little bit deeper into this, corporate social responsibility is a term that describes a company's efforts to improve society in some way. Most of the time, it is with the business side of things, but as I said, these efforts can range from donating money and corporate sponsorships for nonprofits to implementing environmentally friendly workplace policies. It's just the way that a business is able to give back to something in their society, in their community. And it really gets at this point that we're all connected in many different ways. So if we all are working together, we can have stronger communities and stronger places where we're all living and working. There are some really great benefits of corporate social responsibility that, even though this is usually applied to the business side, it can also apply to your nonprofit as well. Having a culture that is based upon service, or at least has a desire to incorporate service into that model, can create community values and positive relationships with the communities that you're in. It can encourage your teams to work together very inclusively, and that can really strengthen the way in which you can build a team around service. It also helps to keep that positive environment, and having a positive environment can strengthen the retention and recruitment and efficiency of the people who you're working with. And so I'm sure a lot of our nonprofits who are working with volunteers could say this is part of their mission, is having that positive culture, or having a positive culture in your nonprofit does create, in a sense, a better business for your nonprofit as well. One of the other benefits that is part of corporate social responsibility is stronger communities. When a business or nonprofit is in the community, doing good, making good things happen, it really has an impact on the places in which we live, and it can create stronger bonds. So understanding what's going on with your businesses, having your business understanding what's going in the nonprofit sector, really brings people together in a really great way. And the last benefit that I've highlighted here is just workplace skills. So when you have a service incorporated as part of a model, you can develop empathy, you can develop skills like project management and leadership. There's a lot of different workplace skills that maybe wouldn't come out otherwise, that you can develop through having a service element to your business. For businesses engaged in corporate social responsibility, it's a really great way for them to build their image and their brand. There are a few different companies that we'll talk about, a few of them, but there's companies like Patagonia, which heavily invests in environmental advocacy. There is Lush, which I know donates to many different charities, and they're all businesses that are using that service to build their image, build their brand, show that they're more than just what you see as their service or their goods that they're product is portraying to you. It can also draw media attention if you're a business that you might not get otherwise. Nonprofits tend to get a big connection with the side of media, whether it's through articles or stories that are covering the exciting things going on in Zelienople. And that coverage, if you're partnering with a business, would be part of a marketing or promotion budget. And that's something that businesses can really leverage. So if you're a nonprofit thinking about partnering with a business, that's definitely one of the benefits that you can bring if you're coming to talk to a local business or other type of corporate sponsor, that they will have that added benefit of coverage. It also can really help businesses through employees having an active role. When an employee is out, say, volunteering with vulnerable communities or building houses or picking up trash or volunteering on site for different events, those people who are part of a corporation can also act as brand ambassadors within their communities. So if you are a business and you may be interested in getting referrals or figuring out where your next clients are coming from, having an element of service and your employees out taking advantage of service in the community can really get that brand ambassadorship. So once again, if you're a nonprofit that's here and you're trying to think about how you might approach a organization or a company that you would like to support you or would like to request volunteers, or there's a number of ways that you might be able to partner. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But as you're requesting, keep in mind that there are all of these different benefits for businesses. So it's more than just a corporate sponsorship of give us X amount of dollars for this event or this initiative, but that could really be taken to another level of benefit for businesses. For a nonprofit, you can also build your image and brand, maybe through partnering with a local business. You're able to get a little bit more exposure that you might not otherwise, and reach a different target audience that maybe has never heard of your orchestra or your museum or your services that you've been offering. And that can have a really big impact on how you increase your funding, because you might be able to attract new donations that are individual donors. You might be able to attract other businesses that want to provide in-kind donations for events. Maybe you'll run into people who are really passionate about music or history or service, and they want to volunteer with your organization. It's another great way to look for board members oftentimes, and I know I've encountered this working with the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber. It's been really great to use resources that are in the business world to help recruit board members, because you get a really diverse set of ideas coming in. So lots of different ways you can incorporate those types of benefits into partnerships with businesses. And you can also provide professional development. So if you're working with a board, and I know for some of the boards that I've worked on, it's been really great to have a CPA or someone who is a really great understanding of our finances, because that's been able to translate into education for some of our other board members who maybe aren't as comfortable. So you can always have that opportunity for professional development if you're working with places that are providing services or providing products that are not typically a part of your mission as a nonprofit. So lots of great benefits for businesses, lots of great benefits for nonprofits. And when you bring all of those together, you want to make a good partnership. So before we talk about some of the examples of what partnerships can look like, I wanted to talk first about what makes a good partnership. The first step that you want to take if you're a nonprofit or if you're a business looking to have a partnership, you want to identify the goals and activities that you're going to be engaging in, and you want to make sure that whichever partner you approach, this may be very overt, it might also be something that's a little bit more of a passion for that organization, but you want to make sure that those are common goals, common activities that you're both agreeing at the beginning, and then setting those expectations of what does my business want to get out of this? What does my nonprofit want to get out of this? And once you're able to set those clear expectations, you can also set some measurable goals or things that you can really track to make sure that you're going to be accomplishing those expectations and goals. Establishing trust and mutual respect is a big one. And this is usually through building communications or being very transparent about the operations that you have. So if you are a nonprofit, you want to be very transparent about the activities that you're going to do, how you're going to promote, what that partnership looks like, and being able to follow through. And the same on the business side. If you're going to agree to provide an in-kind donation, or you're going to provide some type of service that's going to support the goals of and activities of a mission of a nonprofit, then you're going to want to follow through on those goals. So developing that mutual respect, and then regularly communicating and having that relationship of checking in and making sure that everyone's right on track with what those expectations look like, right on track with where everything is going. The one thing that I know I have been thinking about a lot is that smaller businesses and nonprofits are more agile than larger corporations. So larger corporations may be able to bring larger corporate sponsorships for different things, but they might not always be able to act very quickly. Whereas if you're working with a small business, maybe they have one or two people that give the green light to go ahead on a partnership. And the same with a nonprofit is, if you're a smaller nonprofit, you're usually very able to react and really move things along. And that is something that is a huge benefit right now, where we're all reacting to the different changes that are happening. So just something to keep in mind. The next step of having your partnership is being able to own it and maintain it. So when both organizations understand those clear expectations, when they both know they're working towards same goals, then it's going to be easier for those organizations to understand how the partnership supports them. And it's also easier to help target what next steps you need to take to achieve those goals. When you're thinking about the business or nonprofit side, you're going to think about the return on investment. So for a business, you might be thinking about attracting new clients, or developing new revenues, or finding new promotional and marketing opportunities. For your nonprofit, maybe you want more engagement, maybe you want to find more donors or diversify the types of corporate sponsors that you're attracting, or in-kind donors that you're attracting. So make sure that you know what you want the return to be by setting some SMART goals. And I've got the SMART criteria there. You may have heard this before, but it stands for specific, measurable, assignable, relevant, and time-based. So making sure those goals are very specific in what you want, making sure you can measure whatever that is, assignable, knowing who can do them and who has the capacity to do them, and also being relevant and time-based, which sometimes go hand in hand, but making sure those are relevant to the current community or current time period, and then understanding that you want to attract maybe a certain number of donors in the next 6 months. And so you have a way to gauge whether or not that has been successful, and you're able to then make some changes and adjustments to really meet that goal. And that will help you to create these measurable outcomes. When you have those SMART goals, you can measure exactly where you are and really work towards making sure those outcomes work for both the business that you work with or corporation you work with, as well as your nonprofit. And this will help you to maintain. So I know for certain organizations, maybe it'll be a one-off. You're going to work with a corporation to get in-kind donations for a certain event. But when you're working with that organization, knowing whether or not it's a one-off, or whether or not maybe that will turn into a larger partnership where you can maybe work on a few different events together to really expand and get the most out of that partnership. So maintaining that conversation and understanding which businesses will really help you to have more of that relationship rather than just the one-off, which will also encourage those businesses to be more engaged and more caring about the mission that you're involved with. The last thing I have here is telling stories of impact. So stories definitely matter, and nonprofits know this very, very well. But I think it's something that oftentimes businesses can tend to overlook, where they're very focused on marketing and having attracting their different audiences. but the consumers who they are attracting, if you're working with a nonprofit or you're working on a service base for your corporate responsibility, consumers also want to see support for those social causes. So if you're a business, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of your measurable outcomes, not only so you can know if you're getting the return on an investment, but also so that you can know that you're able to tell stories that are going to connect with new customers. And for a nonprofit, these impact stories, as you know, can also attract new donors and develop more engagement for your organization. So being able to keep track is one way to know your return on investment, but it's also a way that you can tell that story of what's going on within your community. And I just have a few examples for today that are gonna give you an idea of what some of these partnerships can look like or have looked like. And then I'll let Stephanie give a feature on Credit Gives and tell you more about what that looks like as a partnership as well. And then we'll probably have a little bit of time. We can do some Q&A, and we can also just talk and a little bit more about some ideas for partnerships that may be available and opportunities in your own communities. So the first example I have here is Lush, which is a cosmetic company, and they have what they call their charity pot. I think it's something like, it was over 100 charities, and they made different cosmetics. I don't know if it was lotion or if it was some other cosmetic, but each charity pot had a different charity listed on that pot, and every time a purchase was made in Lush, that charity would receive a portion of the donation. So Lush is obviously a larger corporation, but if you have a local community organization, perhaps they can create something in partnership with you that every time it's sold, there's a portion of that donation. And so for a business, that gives them a great way to be able to promote that they're supporting local communities, supporting the local nonprofit sector and providing that service. And then the nonprofit will also get the benefit of being able to be in multiple places and maybe reach new people they wouldn't before, as well as receiving that 20%. So a great way to pull that together. I've seen that happen too with foods. I know I work with an organization, and we have a ice cream company that comes, and they will do things with our different events, and it's been a really wonderful partnership. So really thinking about how businesses can incorporate products. Another example of that is 12 Gates Brewing and the Western New York Mountain Bicycling Association. This is in Buffalo, New York, and 12 Gates Brewing is a brewing company that has made a special beer that is brewed just for the Western New York Mountain Bicycling Association. And it's the same type of thing. There's a portion of the proceeds that go back, but they are also involved in advocating very strongly for the bicycling routes. I know they're in the process right now of figuring out how they can advocate for creating new routes, maintaining these routes. And so the Mountain Bicycling Association gets a lot of the press and gets a lot of support in their advocacy. So the two groups are working together in partnership towards the common goal of not only supporting financially the brewery as well as the nonprofit, but also for advocacy towards their common goal, which is a really great way to pull things together, using that common goal for advocacy or whatever your mission is. And the last example I have here is Eisai, which is a pharmaceutical company, and Meals on Wheels. And this pharmaceutical company decided that they wanted to partner with Meals on Wheels to support cancer patients who are just coming out of treatment. And so they've partnered with Meals on Wheels, and they have a cadre of volunteers that will go out and provide free meals after people have received their cancer treatments. And it's been a really great way to not only reach the people who are in need, but it's also been a way that the pharmaceutical company can show that they're giving back and can show that they are not only concerned with creating a pharmaceutical that is going to be supportive of people, but also that they are interested in supporting those people beyond just their pharmacy and their drugs that are going to help them maintain their life. So some interesting examples of how different organizations, businesses and nonprofits have come together to create these longer lasting partnerships. And as far as I know right now, many of these partnerships have not just been a one-off. They've been something that's continued on and on as they continue to develop and grow. And it's been something that has really impacted their brand. It's been something that has really given a lot of engagement to the nonprofits as well. And I'd like to turn now to Stephanie to talk a little bit more about Credit Gives, because at this point in time, I feel as though a lot of, and we know that everyone is trying to figure out what they're going to do with fundraising, what they're going to do moving forward. If you're a business, you're worried maybe about the revenues that are coming in. And Credit Gives is a great way that partnerships could be made, maybe without the typical ask for a corporate sponsorship. That would be a great way to impact both a business and a nonprofit in a very positive way. So I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, let her tell you more about Credit Gives, and then we'll move into our Q&A after that. So Stephanie.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you for having me today. Also, thank you to Scott Hacker. We're all part of a great networking system, and if you haven't ever met Scott, who just introduced himself a little while ago, I think he knows everybody in the networking world. So he's great at putting partnerships together and knows a lot of people and is always looking out for different people in his group. So I
Oh, looks like Stephanie froze. All right. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to reach out to Stephanie, see if we can get her back on board with us. All right, looks like she's logging back on, or should be logging back on. While we're waiting for her to jump back on, I'll just give you a little bit more of her background. She is a proud mom of 2 kids and stepmom to 1. She attended Slippery Rock University and has her BS in elementary education and is the account executive for Credit Gives. And Credit Gives is a nonprofit. They are a subsidiary of the Alliance for Nonprofits, which is in Butler. And they help merchants save money. So if you're a business owner, Credit Gives can reduce the credit card processing fees that you have without sacrificing the customer service or clients. So they partner with a few different very competitive processing companies, and this typically means that they are able to give you the best possible deal with your credit card rates. And like I said before, this will also initiate charitable giving by each time you use a transaction or you have a transaction and you're using Credit Gives as your merchant processor, it will initiate that charitable giving by allowing 20% of the processing fees to come back, and this will come back in quarterly payments to your nonprofit. And both businesses and nonprofits have had really great success with partnering with Credit Gives. And so I'm gonna see if I can give Stephanie a quick call and get her on, at least on, could possibly get her on phone audio for us so we can take you through the rest of this, because I know that she's got some great information that she'd like to share.
Yes,
All right.
can you bring me in through the phone?
Yeah, I've got you on speaker here. Can everyone hear Stephanie?
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Hello. Sorry about that. I don't know. My computer is in total frozen mode right now. I guess on your end it showed that I hopped off. I did not hop off. I still can see everyone's face frozen on it, which is kind of funny. So anyway, I heard that she gave you the overview. And yes, Credit Gives is basically paying with purpose. So everybody goes out to a store. They go ahead and they use that credit card. We are kind of a credit card based society at this point. I know myself, I don't carry cash, and if I do, I spend it. So Credit Gives was born from a couple other big nonprofits in Butler, all run by the same executive director. Their Alliance for Nonprofit Resources. And what Alliance for Nonprofit does is they'll help nonprofits with any services needed, from administration support to back office operations, grant writing, financial services, anything that a nonprofit needs, we will help them with. Under that same nonprofit group is Center for Community Resources. They do the crisis hotline. They've been involved with the food banks through the whole thing, through COVID. So they do different things like that to help society, but crisis is their biggest one. Alliance for Nonprofit Resources, I forgot to mention, also does transportation. That's a big thing for them. So you'll see, if you're ever in the Butler area, you'll see all the little A&R transit vehicles, driving around. We see them everywhere, honestly. And then Nonprofit Development Corporation. So they are actually licensed general contractor. They can help a nonprofit with building, renovating, if something is broken, different things like that. So a couple years ago, they had a brainchild of Credit Gives. They looked at credit card processing and thought, how could we bring that in and utilize that to help not only nonprofits, but businesses. So Credit Gives' mission is pretty simple. We are there to help merchants save money. So we basically, if I go into a business and I submit a proposal, I get a copy of their current statement, and I'm looking at how I can save them money. So we look at saving them as much money as we possibly can. And then the second part of our mission is to, have charitable giving and to have the community involved. So what happens then is a merchant goes with Credit Gives, and we give them the discount, and then they give back to a nonprofit. So when you pay with your credit card, you go to any store or, even give to a nonprofit, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, they all take a certain portion of that donation or that purchase. So if it's $25, they may take, a little portion of that, and it's given back to Visa, MasterCard. And then your credit card processor gets a certain portion of that also. So through that portion, Credit gives back 20% to the nonprofit of the business's choosing. So what's nice about that is if a nonprofit happens to be the business, then they get that money back themselves. So it's a nice way for them to, if they're taking credit cards for anything, whether it be donations or online events or different things, they're able to get that back. They're getting the discount on the credit card processing, and they're also getting that 20% back. So it's a nice way for a business and a nonprofit to, kind of work together. So what is Credit Gives? I think I've already kind of gone over that. It's paying with purpose. We aim to lower that merchant's current credit card processing rates, but also donate 20% back to that merchant's nonprofit choice. Now, that does not go onto the merchant at all. They do not have to worry about cutting that check quarterly and making sure it gets to that nonprofit. All that they do is get a W-9 to us, signed by the nonprofit they're choosing, or we get that done for them also. And then every quarter, Credit Gives cuts a check to that nonprofit. That business can change that nonprofit quarterly. We don't usually see a lot of change go on with that. usually they have one that's near and dear to them. They stick with it. They might be on the board of that nonprofit, so they're going to stay with it. We don't see a lot of changing, like I said, but they do have that option to switch it up if they would like. If they don't have a specific one, they want to be able to help as many in their community as they want, then they can definitely do that. They can give to any nonprofit as long as they are listed as a nonprofit and have that status. They can give to anything that they want. It doesn't have to be in their town, in their county. Credit Gives, as I mentioned, is run by a nonprofit. We don't walk into the business and say, please give back to Credit Gives or A&R or CCR. They give back to who they want. So I may walk into a business, they may say, we definitely want to go through credit card processing. We like your rates. I don't really have anybody a nonprofit that I would want to go with. So they may ask us for suggestions. Again, I'm not suggesting, the nonprofits that I belong to. That's why I like to get to know a lot of nonprofits. So I have a good list to say to them, this is in your area, or this kind of fits in with what you like. I kind of get to know what is near and dear to them so that I can help them make a better decision. But again, that's why I like to have a lot of nonprofits in my back pocket and know, what they do, what they stand for, and what they are. So, when we go into a business, we say, why would they want to choose, Credit Gives? Obviously economical. I think we all understand why. If I can lower their rates, especially in this crazy time of COVID and everything going on, that's kind of a no-brainer. Everybody wants to save money. And right now, a lot of small businesses are looking at, will I be able to stay open? So they're looking at any way they can save, whether it's $100 a month or, $1,000 a month, whatever I can save them, they want to save. So, and then of course, them being able to help nonprofits with sustainable funding. A lot of you are with nonprofits, and a lot of you are looking at, events that have been canceled, different corporate sponsorships going away. So how can that, local car dealership that normally gave you $500 for specific events, for sponsorships, how can they still continue to help you without, taking money out of their pocket that they don't have right now, or they're worried about giving now because what may happen in the future? What is this going to look like in the fall or the winter? As far as with coronavirus, how can they still continue to help you? So one way they can help you is that they can sign up for Credit Gives, and you can be who the nonprofit they give back to. You may know, John Smith that owns Smith Chevrolet, or Smith's Haircut Services, or Smith's Restaurant, and they're very near and dear to your nonprofit. And so we will go to them together, or you can contact them and say, hey, I just heard of this great thing on this call. This Stephanie Rapebush was a great person. Her computer froze and she tried to leave our call, but, she still came through in the end, and, we got to hear about her. But, you can say, hey, would you be willing to give her a chance to go over what she does, maybe get a quote from her and see if you'd like to go with her, maybe choose us as the nonprofit. And in the end, they may say, hey, it's a great service. She's definitely lowering our rates. But you know what? Just found out my niece has cancer, and we're going to go with a nonprofit that, will support her through this. That's great. They're still supporting a nonprofit, but that leaves your nonprofit out. So what we do have is a referral program for nonprofits. So if that situation would happen and you're not going to get that 20% back from them because they don't choose you, you will receive 10% back. So you're still going to receive some residual from them. You're just not going to receive the main part. However, if you also say, hey, I'm going to send you to Smith's Auto Shop, and they choose to go with Credit Gives and they choose your nonprofit, you're going to get a total of 30% back. So it's a neat way for us to help you out. A lot of people start going through their donor list, and they start seeing who does give to us. Are they related to any kind of a business? Is there a possibility that they could give back to us? So we start going through them, and I help, we help figure out, which would be good ones to go to. Like I said, I can either go with you, or you go on your own and get the interest, and then we meet, after that. But like I said, with that referral program, no matter what, if it was referred from you, from your nonprofit, you would at least get 10%, possibly up to 30%. So we always say, you know, if a business goes with us, we give the 20% back, but it can be in upwards of 30% if it's a referral. So a great way, you know, for us to help you and for the business to get help. So again, you know, Credit Gives was born a couple years ago. I think it was a brilliant idea. It was not my idea. I cannot take any credit for it. But I think it's a brilliant idea. I don't understand why every business wouldn't go with Credit Gives. Almost every business out there at this point in some way is taking credit cards. A lot of the nonprofits are also taking credit cards, either on their websites for donations. Maybe they might have a little slider they use it at live events to take credit card payments. And so it's a way for you also to get something little back for your own nonprofit. And then we can go on to your donors and the businesses. And on the business end, it's a great way for them to help a nonprofit. They get the discount, but then they also get to help a nonprofit in this time when maybe they wouldn't normally be able to. So great partnership there. You know, we were talking today all about, you know, nonprofits and businesses working together. And I know that probably business owners, if any of you are in the audience, you're thinking, you know, I would love to help a nonprofit. I would love to be able to say that, hey, you know, my business helps a nonprofit in a way, but there is just no way right now with everything going on, not knowing the future of our business, how am I able to help this nonprofit? Credit Gives is a great way to do that. And you don't even have to think twice about it. We do all the work for you. All you have to do is go with our credit card processing. So again, a great partnership there. I look forward to answering any questions. I am sorry that my computer froze and I'm not live on the call right now and I'm coming through a phone. I hope you're all able to hear me well. And I look forward to answering any questions that you have for Credit Gives.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
I'm going to